using technologies and using new innovative ways to create smarter cities that are more integrated. It just gets to a better place if we're a little more thoughtful.
This is the Facility Management Innovator podcast, where we talk with FM industry leaders about workplace trends, challenges, and the future of the built environment. This show is brought to you by KRL Connections, providing information, consulting, and marketing expertise to help organizations deliver workplace innovation to the facility management community. Hey there, how's it going? Mike Petrusky here, welcoming you, the FM Innovator Nation, to episode 10, which is also part 2 of my interview with workplace specialist Leigh Stringer. Now, if you just stumbled onto this podcast, please be sure to head over and check out episode 9 so you can hear the beginning of our discussion about Leigh's new book, The Healthy Workplace, or just stick around here. I'm not picky. Either way, I am so glad you are out there listening. Not just all my facility manager friends and our FM industry partners, but I also want to welcome the workplace strategists, wellness experts, and so many others who have discovered the podcast recently after hearing the first part of my conversation with Leigh. Thank you for checking us out. The more folks we get on board, the more opportunities for collaboration, and we all will have a better chance of helping each other deliver workplace innovation to our FM community, which is really, really cool and is really what this show is all about. So thank you. Let's dive right into part 2 of the interview. We'll pick things up as I ask Leigh about my struggles with sleep, and then we'll talk a bit about new technologies and the future of the built environment. I always love that. You'll notice I take us off course a few times, but Leigh always brings it back, keeps us focused on the importance of health in the workplace, and we have a whole lot of fun. Check it out. The science of sleep. So I really struggle sometimes with the brain waking me up, and then if it's too early, I basically start thinking about the day and I get going on. So the sleep architecture studies you did, is there any practical advice to get myself back to sleep so I don't have to hit the snooze like 4 times when the alarm actually goes off?
Right. Well, there's a lot of there are actually sleep specialists now who will come into organizations and actually help people with sleep habits. And a lot of it has to do with just your personal practices, right? Turning off the laptop, yes. Close it down, turn off your phone. Keep your mind from just whizzing along. Also, paying attention to the lighting in your house or in your environment, and making it soft and quiet and not those bright bulbs. And mimicking probably what happened for a long time, out in nature when we didn't have light bulbs, and really trying to kind of start that process going. Another good habit is to work out in the morning if you could make it happen. There are some people who work out in the nighttime, and I would never ask you to stop doing that if that is your time to work out. But if you have a choice, work out in the morning is typically a better thing, really gets your brain going. And what happens when you work out, you're producing energy. Mm-hmm. So there's, so much science about this. Working out is amazing. So
what I heard? I heard a commercial for the Facility Management Innovator podcast. You need to go for a run first thing in the morning and put on podcasts and and if you happen to pick this podcast as part of your routine,
bonus points.
I really appreciate that.
No, so working out creates energy. This is why you're so energized when you finish. And of course, that's great for productivity. But if you work out close to your bedtime, it potentially could impact that. And one thing I do is I listen to just soft music. I throw my earbuds in. That actually really helps me. There are a couple of podcasts on meditation as well. There's one called Buddhify, which is actually lovely. And it's
but the spa channel. I like the spa channel.
The spa channel's good.
On Sirius XM.
There's one called Calm. Yeah, there's so many options now. Find one that works for you. Some of them are a little bit longer form or shorter form, but kind of just listening to something soothing will really, for me anyway, kind of keep my scrambled brain from working so hard and calm me down a little bit.
Love
you
it.
kind of have to turn the other things off on the phone, though, if you're listening to your earbuds. But you know what I mean.
Enya. Put on a little Enya.
I forgot about Enya.
My kids go crazy. They don't like it. I can't understand what the appeal is, but Enya is the most relaxing music out there. Awesome. Well, to affect behavioral change, this kind of reminded me of something in the book, to get people to change is a challenge. And you have some practical suggestions about that. What is it that motivates people to actually implement a wellness plan personally or in a broader sense for an organization?
So one of my research spots where I just spent a lot of time understanding health and well-being was going to the Human Performance Institute and doing their corporate athletes program in Orlando. And the Human Performance Institute, in case you haven't heard of it, they coach elite athletes on how to improve their game. And they're really amazing at it. And but they have, taught all the greats, Pete Sampras, and name all these ice hockey players, whatever. But one of the things that my coach, you have a coach when you take these training things, said is really, what's so important about a lot of this change that we're asking people to do is to get to the why. Why are you changing? And
you're not a fan of The Matrix, are you? Do you remember the Matrix movies?
I don't. Yes, but I don't remember the why.
There was a character in The Matrix Reloaded who was kind of like this very arrogant French guy, the Merovingian. He was called the Merovingian.
Okay.
And Neo and Trinity and Morpheus had to go visit him to find the keymaker.
Okay.
And he said, "You come to me without knowing why you're here. You don't have the why." And he was like dismissing them because they didn't have the why. And it's all about knowing the why behind your actions. Why are you doing it? So there you go. The Matrix and the Healthy Workplace. I see a tour coming up. Lee's going to get
That's right.
the whole theme going. You're going to dress up like Trinity in the big trench coat, and you're going to have a great time.
Who knew? So much wisdom. I love it.
See the tangents we go
these
on?
Writers in Hollywood, I know I'm respecting them so much more.
Yes.
So the why, so the deal is when the why is clear, the how is a lot easier. So the thing is, why would you change your behavior? Why would you personally take on being more healthy? And one of the great examples that my coach gave to our team, there are a bunch of executives in the room, and we're all kind of looking at them quizzically, like, what's going on here? And they said, well, look, it's like this. Imagine you're in a building, a very tall building, and across the street is another very tall building. And between them is this tiny plank, and you have to walk across the plank. If you walk across this plank, now again, it's very windy up there. The plank will wobble quite a bit, but if you do it, if you get from A to B, we will give you $1 million. How many people in the room would raise their hand? And so one person raised their hand. We had one adventurer in our group, but the rest of us were like, yeah, not really sure. It sounds kind of scary. So our coach said, all right, hold on. Let me reframe this a little bit. Imagine the same scenario, 2 buildings, plank. But the other building across the way is on fire and your kids are in that building. Are you going to walk that plank? And of course, our hands shot up. I was in tears thinking about, oh my God, my kids, anything happened to them and I'd be in heels running across that plank. You better believe it. And her point was well taken. It's why, we all want to be healthy. It's more than us, right? It's more than just taking care of ourselves. It's taking care of all the people around us that are impacted by our health. You have to come to grips with this, I think. Right. And really pay attention to the real purpose in your life, and your mission in your life, to make it absolutely essential. Absolutely. I can't imagine not being healthy because I have to have that in order to fulfill my purpose and my mission. So there you go.
Thank you for sharing that. That is awesome. So at KRL Connections, Leigh, our mission is to help FM innovators deliver workplace innovation to the facility management community. So I must ask you, do you see any trends with technology enabling health in the workplace?
Oh, my goodness gracious. It's
softball. I just tossed you a softball.
So many ways. Okay, so I'll start with the one that's getting a lot of buzz lately, which is lighting systems. And not only do they have all kinds of sensors on them now, which tell you everything you ever wanted to know in kind of a scary way about building occupancy and things like that, but the circadian lighting, I think, is really, really cool. And this is one of those things where, the Nordic countries have been studying this for a long time, seasonal affective disorder and new light bulbs and light systems that keep us from being depressed during the winter. But now I think these systems and these lighting bulbs as well, or just simple light bulbs, have gotten to the point where they're helping us to wake up more during the day or go to sleep. And it has to do a lot with wavelength and all kinds of sophisticated things in our brain that are shutting down and speeding up melatonin production in terms of the lighting, the light waves. And all of it's mimicking the sun. It's really just trying to do what, the way we worked for millions of years was outdoors, which was our natural, set our natural biorhythms. But I think the lighting is one of the biggest things that's going to hit our marketplace in the world of facilities. And it's something everybody should be aware of.
Am I going to have circadian? Am I going to have, I think I'm feeling a circadian dip coming on. You mentioned that.
No.
No, not during our conversation. No way that's happening. I'm energized to the nth degree. So another thing you mentioned in the book is the Internet of Things. And I've had guests on this show from Siemens Corporation. Gary McKelvey sat in on a conversation, told me he's an expert in building automation and the Internet of Things and the impact of sensors and tying it all together. And I have some clients that are in this space trying to really make sense of all this data. Where does the gathering of data and connectivity to our human machines come into play in the future?
Well, one of the projects I'm working on right now is with our Albany office. So EYP has an office in Albany that's it's called the Nano Building, that is net zero energy. And it is super cool facility, beautiful, well lit, high ceilings, kind of everything you'd want in a workspace. But after surveying some of our employees, we realized that there were some acoustics issues, and always, right?
Try to record a podcast there. It just won't happen.
Probably not. And thermal comfort issues. And we just, we're trying to make it right. It only just opened about 6 months ago. So now we're like, all right, let's make this thing really work. And we're researching. We decided to do a little deeper dive research and to figure out how that works. And we're realizing there's this push and pull between energy efficiency and the health and happiness of the people who occupy our buildings and getting those right. And we found some issues as well, just with the use of devices that energy we thought would be dropping off when people left the office at the end of the day. It's actually still, there's a lot of ghosting or a lot of things that must be plugged in. Mm-hmm. So with very little cost, we have started going crazy with these little devices. One's called a Hobo that measures, and we've got, maybe 7 of them or so in very strategic areas where we had some problems, and you can measure acoustics and thermal control really easily. The other thing we're doing, which is kind of interesting, is installing, we're working with a company called Crowd Comfort. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I've heard of them, yes.
Yeah, they're kind of new to the market. They won some sort of President's Award for innovation, and it's really clever. But they basically, we've attached QR codes or images and little labels to every workplace, every piece of equipment around the workplace or the office. And then everybody's going to have an app installed on their phone, and they'll be able to zap wherever they're standing and say, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, in a just-in-time fashion over the next year. So we'll be able to look at those stats over the course of a year. And also we can push survey information to everybody. So we can say, how's the lighting now? And now? How about now?
We kind of right.
So
technology.
One of the things that we found is that through some IFMA studies and other ways through the GSA, is that there's a direct correlation between satisfaction with the workplace and how engaged people are. And so one of the great tools to get it right in terms of the lighting and thermal controls is this QR tool, this Crowd Comfort thing, but also a way to engage our people. So we're hoping that, and that's just a couple of examples of super inexpensive tools that are out there that are a great way to refine space issues, and I think your clients would like. It's good stuff. I mean, I think we're going to learn a lot more about microclimates and the importance of allowing a certain amount of control for the users. Because in the past, it's just suffer through, wear a sweater, turn on a fan.
Call and complain, call the FM
complain.
and complain.
They're the first one to hear the complaints. And yeah, I think allowing people to have a voice with tools like Crowd Comfort or other things like that, in combination of allowing people to control things themselves is going to be a huge win for the industry.
Well, I want to continue on this theme of the future and what that looks like. I often ask my guests where they see things in the workplace going in the next 5 or 10 years. And when you wrote your book, you must have known that I was going to ask this question, because one of my favorite parts was the very end, and I won't give it all away, but you tell some stories about 2 possible visions of our future. You paint 2 scenarios of whether we continue with the status quo, the way we're doing things now, versus we decide to embrace a lot of these ideas and concepts and create a more sustainable future. So, no spoilers, but can you give us a few thoughts on on the future of the workplace?
Yeah, and I will just say, one of the tools I use to think about those stories for the future is called scenario planning, which is done by, or I guess originally by the Global Business Network and Royal Dutch Shell ages ago. The idea with scenario planning is to really flush out a story. And I think a lot of our forecasting in organizations is, about numbers. And I think we have to kind of flush it out a little bit more and inspire people's imaginations a little bit. And so the two stories that I wrote about the not so good future and the perhaps smarter, more intelligent way to manage ourselves from a healthy, sustainable perspective and an environmentally sustainable perspective are all about, pushing those two stories to the extreme. So the idea here is to say, well, if we continue on and we don't change things, why are we expecting them to be any better? So if we keep on working really hard and we keep on having all these chronic diseases and our healthcare system becomes overwhelmed, that's, kind of a frightening concept. So on the other hand, if we take a step back and we think beyond our individual positions, our company's positions, and just take a wide angle lens and think about what life could be like if we paid more attention to our health and our well-being. Could we reduce healthcare costs so we have a little more money to spend on education or on things that we know are foundational to our society? And we had the energy because we weren't chronically ill and we were able to work and we're able to really give our best thinking to solving the wicked problems that we're wrestling with from an environmental standpoint. What a better world we could create for ourselves. And, using technologies and using new innovative ways to create smarter cities that are more integrated. And it just gets to a better place if we're a little more thoughtful and a little more fulfilled because we're feeding ourselves with good food, we're working out more, we just have that energy to apply again to these big world problems. And I'm not Pollyanna. I'm pretty realistic about it, but I do think that business for so long has been about pump it out, think about the next quarter. And at the end of the day, life is not about quarterly returns. Life is about something bigger. And I really hope as business leaders and as facility leaders, you all take care of yourselves and take care of your personal health and that of your family, because that's a foundation. And on that, we're only going to be building a more productive world if we're a little more thoughtful about that. And often people, and myself included, used to think, well, working out, eating good food, and I don't have time. I don't have time for that, but my push is that, of course you have time for that. You have to make time for yourself and you're number one and you're first. And if we put ourselves first, it's the least selfish thing we can do. It's actually the most selfless thing because we're giving our very best thinking to the planet.
Wow. That's a lot to digest. Great stuff, Leigh. We have so much more of it in the book. I recommend you pick it up. The Healthy Workplace. There are practical, research-backed, data-driven suggestions and solutions for the built environment, and I recommend everybody get a copy. Thank you so much, Leigh, just for taking the time to be on my little podcast here. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for coming to my house.
Yes, happy to be here.
And
Beautiful
making this
home.
happen. Thank you so much.
Now let's go get that selfie.
That sounds good.
Was that fun or what? I am so thankful to Leigh Stringer for welcoming me into her home, for spending so much time chatting with me, and for sharing her expertise with all of us. So great. And I'm not kidding, folks. Her book is great. Please check out the show notes where you will find a link to Amazon so you can grab your copy of The Healthy Workplace. And that'll do it. That wraps up our first 2-episode interview. So let me know what you think. Your feedback is always welcome. If you are listening on iTunes, please take just a second and rate us there. I will forever be indebted to you. And I will look forward to speaking with you again. Until then, be an FM Innovator. Peace out. You've been listening to the Facility Management Innovator Podcast. We hope you found this discussion beneficial as we work together to elevate the FM community by building partnerships that lead to innovative workplace solutions. For more information about facility management collaboration and marketing resources, visit krelconnections.com.